All right, everybody, welcome to week 8 in Dynasty here. And we're going to, again, the commission is not joining us. So you guys just have me. And then next week, you'll just have the commission because I won't be here. First up, we have Philly Miraclemen 0-7, ranked 16th because they suck on a 7-game losing streak. Their points for are 16th. Their points against are ranked 7th. Definitely not the order you want to have them versus likely losers 1-6, ranked 15th on a 4-game winning streak, a losing streak, because their only win was against Philly Miraclemen. Points for are ranked 14th. Points against are ranked second. Again, definitely not the way you want those numbers to look. Looking at the two teams, I believe this is actually be a pretty close matchup. Philly Miraclemen again still don't have two starting quarterbacks because Deshaun Watson has not been traded yet. Looking at the two teams, you got Justin Fields playing San Fran, Matt Ryan playing Carolina. Not a favorite fan of either right now. I think Fields will be a great quarterback. I think it's going to take a year for him to settle down. Matt Ryan is playing Carolina. I think it's going to be tough for him to move the ball. Looking at the running back rooms, you have Michael Carter, Gainwell, and Harris, which looking at those three wide receivers, Philly Miraclemen all suddenly have 3 starting running backs versus Gordon, Connor, and Cook, but so do likely losers. Looking at the wide receiver room, Corey Davis, Rieger, and Jaquez Watkins versus Diggs, Samuel, and Osborne. Definitely the wide receiver room is favored of likely losers there. Looking at the tight ends, you got Parham and Trotman versus Ertz and Higbee, again in favor of likely losers. Looking at the flex options or the super flex options, you have Michael Gallup versus Trayvon Austin, and probably in favor of Philly Miraclemen if Gallup does come back and play. Looking at the other flex, you got Marshall, Justin Jackson, and Pettis versus JJ Taylor, McNichols, and Keenan Cole. And let's call that a wash. Maybe in favor of Philly Miraclemen. Maybe. And both teams do have one IDP on the bye and nobody else to slot in. This is going to be a super close match, but it's a match that nobody really cares about. Commission and I both have likely losers winning this one. Next up, you have Sabatica Spartans 2-5, ranked 12. They're on a 3-game losing streak. They're ranked 11th in points for, ranked 10th in points against, versus Bare Naked Ladies 2-5, ranked 13 on a 1-game losing streak. Points for are 15th, points against are 11th. Looking at the two teams, you got Cousins playing Dallas versus Trevor Lawrence playing Seattle. Definitely in favor of Spartans playing Dallas. I think that's going to be a shootout. Looking at the running back rooms, you got McKissick, Kamara, and Dillon versus Penny, Swift, and Eli Mitchell. And honestly, it's probably a wash. Maybe in favor of Spartans just a little. It really comes down to how many carries does AJ Dillon get. Looking at the wide receiver room, you got Hilton, Landry, and Shepard versus Valdez Scantling, Christian Kirk, and Julio Jones. And I think Scantling is on IR and won't be playing this week, but it's possible, I guess. Let's take a quick look and see. It looks like it's going to be a game day's decision. If he plays, it's probably even, but if he doesn't play, definitely in favor of Spartans. Looking at the tight end rooms, you got Kelsey and Sweeney, who is taking over for Knox, versus Ian Thomas and Bryant. Even if Sweeney gets 0 points, Kelsey will make up for that versus the other two, and that is definitely in favor of Spartans. Looking at the super flex, you got Daniel Jones playing KC, which KC looked horrible last week, versus Diami Brown. Give me the quarterback any day of the week just because he's a quarterback and he probably throw you some touchdowns. Looking at the other flex, you got Parker, Mooney, and Van Jefferson versus Galladay, Sutton, Hardman. And they're pretty even, maybe just in favor of Bare Naked Ladies just a little. But with that said, the commish has Spartans winning this one. I originally had Bare Naked Ladies win this one. I am changing my pick. I am changing it over to Spartans as well. Next up, we have Optimus Prime 1-6, ranked 14th on a 2-game losing streak. Points for are ranked 13th, and points against ranked number 1. You definitely don't have number 1 points against if you're in the low end of points for. Versus Bills Mafia, who's 6-1, ranked number 3. He's on a 6-game winning streak, so he was 0-1. His points for are number 1, and I'm pretty sure it's by a mile. Points against are ranked number 12, and that is exactly what you want to see in those two numbers. Looking at the two teams, give me 1 second. I just got to find the game real quick. Looking at the two teams, you got Tannehill versus Indy, and Stafford versus Houston. I think there's both going to be big point games. Maybe in favor of just Stafford just a little, but not too much. Looking at the running back rooms on the Prime side, you got Mitchell, Robinson, and Hubbard versus Edmonds, Harris, and that's Damian Harris and Henderson. And they're definitely in favor of Bills Mafia there, just a lot. Looking at the wide receiver rooms, you got Hopkins, Carter, and Chase versus McLaren, Godwin, and Cooks, and definitely, again, also in favor of Bills Mafia. Looking at the tight end rooms, you got Nayuk and Mo Alley Cox versus Font and Jasicki. And it's possible those two will put up points for Prime side, but overall, those two on the right-hand side for Bills Mafia are definitely the better two teams. Looking at the super flex, you got Ty Johnson or Josh Allen. Definitely give me Josh Allen any day of the week. And looking at the flex, you got Bolden, Smith, and Hasty for Prime, or Boyd, Collins, and Singletary on for Mafia. And with all that good stuff said, Bills Mafia is going to win. Kamisha and I both have that picked as well. Next up, you have Curly Lamborghini versus Randall Flag Football. Curly Lamborghini is 3-4. He's ranked 11th. He's on a 3-game winning streak, so that means he started out 0-4. He is ranked 8th for points for. He's in the middle of the road. Points against are ranked number 4 versus Randall Flag Football, who's 6-1, ranked number 1. He's on a 5-game winning streak. His points for are ranked number 2, and his points against are ranked number 9. Looking at the two teams, you got Kyler Murray playing Green Bay, which I think is going to be a shootout, versus Aaron Rodgers playing Arizona, which I just said the game is going to be a shootout. However, for Green Bay, Devontae Adams is not going to play. Looking at the two running back rooms on Lamborghini's side, you got Gaskins, Pollard, and Herbert versus McKinnon, Mixon, and Dallas. And just kind of looking at those two, either even, maybe just in favor of Curly Lamborghini just a little. Looking at the wide receiver room, you got Lockett, Hill, and Agnew. Has anybody found Lockett yet? Versus Ridley, AJ Brown, and Metcalf. And even if Lockett is found, I think the wide receivers are still better for Randall Flag Football. Looking at the tight ends, you got CJ Who's Your Mama and Hunter Henry versus Goddard and Pitts. And I just like Randall Flag Football's tight ends just a little, but it is possible for those two tight ends to put up lots of points as well. Looking at the super flex, you got Mac Jones playing the Chargers or Sam Darnold playing Atlanta. And I think both those quarterbacks are going to put up a decent amount of points. And I think, it's going to wash. Looking at the flex options, you got Peoples-Jones, Humphreys, and Perrine versus Myers, Mike Williams, and Tim Patrick. And I think Randall Flag Football, they're just a little bit better in general than Curly Lamborghinis, but doesn't mean that they can't put up points. I think this game is going to be a really close one, maybe 10-point difference between the two. Let's just take a quick look, see who the commish projected. The commish projected Curly Lamborghini winning this one. I originally had Curly Lamborghini winning this one as well, but I am going to change my pick over to Randall Flag Football. Next up, we have Unnecessary Roughness, 3-4, ranked 9th on a 1-game winning streak. Points for are ranked 6th points against are ranked 15th versus Orange Crushy, 6-1, ranked number 4. And it's kind of scary to say that we have at least 4 teams that are ranked 6-1 on a 1-game losing streak. He is ranked number 5. He is points for are ranked 5, and his points against are ranked 13th. Looking at the 2 teams real quick, you got Dak Prescott coming out of the bye playing Minnesota, or Patrick Mahomes playing the Giants. And if Patrick Mahomes didn't get 0.84 points last week, Orange Crush would have probably won that game as well and been 7-0. Looking at the 2 running back rooms, you got Damian Williams, Barkley, and Javonte Williams versus Aaron Jones, Hines, and Boone. And if Barkley does come back and play, which he's questionable to do, he was spotted at practice, that the running back rooms would be definitely in favor of athletic roughness here. Looking at the wide receiver rooms, you got Sanders, Beasley, and Higgins versus Johnson, Pittman, and Claypool. You got 2 wide receivers on the same team for both players. Looking at those 2, I actually think the wide receiver room is a wash. Looking at the tight ends, you have Schultz and Freiermuth versus Howard and Ingram. I think the tight ends definitely favor unnecessary roughness here. Looking at the tight ends, you got Goff and Tua. In general, you probably say, hey, Tua is better, but Tua is playing Buffalo. And Goff is playing Philadelphia. Give me Goff every day of the week. Looking at the flex options, you have Homer, Cobb, and Johnson. And as I said, that Devontae Adams won't be playing this week. Cobb definitely gets a bump there versus Waddle, and Williams, and Pascal. And besides Cobb, the flex options are even, maybe. And honestly, this is going to come down to be a close game. This is going to come down to what Patrick Mahomes does against the Giants, because I think Prescott will be in a shootout against Minnesota. If originally I had Orange Crush winning this one, but going through it, to me, it's actually super close. The commish has Orange Crush. So that was definitely one that he picked. I'm going to stick with Orange Crush, but I think it's going to be close, and I think unnecessary roughness can pull out the shocker and win this game. Next up, you have Vlad Jr. Crew, 4-3, ranked 7th. He's on a 1-game winning streak. His points for are ranked 3, and his points against are also ranked 3. Versus Chris and No More, 3-4, ranked 10th. He is on a 3-game losing streak. His points for are ranked 4th, and his points against are ranked 6th. So both these teams are scoring a lot of points, and they are playing hard opponents. With that said, let's go ahead and take a look at the 2 teams. Vlad Jr. Crew has Henke playing Denver, or Joe Burrow playing the Jets, and give me Joe Burrow playing the Jets, or anybody really. Looking at the running back rooms, you got Patterson, Ahmed, and Evans versus Derrick Henry, Marlon Mack, and Felton. And honestly, looking at the 2 running back rooms, Henry is the better back of all 6, but the 2 other guys that No More has are kind of not that good, but the other guys on Vlad Jr. Crew's side as well. So the running back room goes to Derrick Henry and No More. Looking at the wide receivers, you have Aguilar, Kupp, and Rondell Moore versus Mike Evans, DJ Moore, and Callaway. And I am definitely in favor of No More's wide receiver room. Looking at the tight ends, you got Lewis and Hawkinson versus Frisker and Akins. And definitely Hawkinson, just because the Eagles defense can't stop a tight end. Looking at the super flex of Geno Smith versus Winston, Geno Smith is playing Jacksonville and Winston is playing Tampa Bay. I think he's going to want to come out and throw a few touchdown passes against Tampa Bay, and I think it is in favor of Winston as well. Looking at the flex options, you got Johnson, Howard, and Ronald Jones versus AJ Green, Robinson, and Smith. And I actually don't know who this Jordan Howard. He's back on the practice squad from somebody, but I'm not going to read it right now. With all that good stuff said, let's take a look. The commish originally had no more winning, and that's who he is still sticking with. I originally had Vlad Jr. Cruz team winning, and I'm changing it. I'm actually going to change to no more. Next up, we have Agent Steel versus Bolt Up. Agent Steel is 4-3, ranked number 8. He's on a 1-game losing streak. And then he is 7th for points for and 8th for points against. Versus Bolt Up, who's 4-3, ranked number 6. He's on 1-game winning streak. His points for are ranked 12th. His points against are ranked 14th. And this, my friends, is probably the battle for the division here. Because the other two teams, like Losers and Fallen People, Philly Miracle Men, both suck. So looking at the two teams, you got Carson Wentz playing Tennessee or Herbert playing New England. And the question is, what Herbert do you get? Do you get the Herbert who played Baltimore and sucked, or Herbert who played 2 weeks prior to that against New England, against I believe it was Cleveland, who put up 56 points? And versus Carson Wentz playing Tennessee, and Carson Wentz probably get you about 20, 25 points on average. Then looking at the two teams, you got Mark Ingram, who just got traded back to New Orleans, who will be the Thunder back to Kamara's Lightning. Booker, who is a starting running back if Barkley doesn't play, and Chubb, who is coming back to play, versus Mike Davis, Eckler, and Boston Scott. And the question is, does Boston Scott get more carries than Gainwell? Because he's definitely, just like Mark Ingram, a bigger back who can pound the ball. Excuse me. Looking at the wide receiver room, you got Deebo Samuel, CeeDee Lamb, and Devonta Smith versus Keenan Allen, Robbie Anderson, and Khalifa Raymond. And depends on if Smith can get any catches or not. But I would say overall, the better wide receivers are on Agent Steele's side. Looking at the tight ends, you got Everett and Janu Smith versus Logan Thomas, who may not play this week. He was spotted on the field, and Pharaoh Brown. If Logan Thomas can play, he's probably the best tight end out of the 4. But if he doesn't play, definitely in favor of Agent Steele. Looking at the super flex, you got Amari Cooper versus Jalen Hurts playing Detroit, and that is definitely in favor of Bolt Up because Jalen Hurts is garbage time TD quarterback. Looking at the flex options, you got Odell Beckham, Crowder, and Komet versus Bourne, Sanu, and the Viscous Chenault. And I like Bolt Up's flex options better. Taking everything into consideration, the commish has himself winning. I originally had the commish winning, and I am going to stick with that, even though I think it's going to be close. But I'm going to stick with my original pick here. Next up, you have the Illuminati 5-2, ranked number 5. He's on a 3-game winning streak. His points for are ranked 10th, but his points against are ranked 15th. Versus Zebras, who's 6-1. She is ranked number 2. She's on a 3-game winning streak. Her points for ranked 9th, and points against ranked 16th. There's a couple of teams out there who wish they had both of these teams' schedules. Looking at the two teams real quick, you got Tom Brady playing New Orleans versus Garoppolo playing Chicago. And I really like to see Trey Lance versus Justin Fields, but we're definitely not going to get that. Looking at the two teams, you get 2 running back rooms. You got Ezekiel Elliott, Fournette, and Jamal Williams versus Zach Moss, Jonathan Taylor, and Gibson. And I would say they're all 3 good running backs, 6 running backs here. Maybe in favor of Zebras just a little. Really comes down to what does Zach Moss do. Looking at the wide receiver rooms, you got Robinson, Hinton, and Jefferson versus Mac Jones, Woods, and Thielen. I believe the running wide receiver room is definitely in favor of Zebras right there. Looking at the tight ends, you got Cook and Conklin versus Tunyon and Knox, and Knox is out. The tight end room is definitely in favor of Illuminati. Looking at the flex super flex, you got Teddy Bridgewater playing Washington versus Trey Lance playing Chicago, and only one of her quarterbacks is going to be a starter. Doesn't mean that the other one will not score a touchdown, though. But definitely in favor of Teddy Bridgewater. Looking at the flex options, you got Daryl Williams, Jack Doyle, and Cameron Brate versus Collins, Slayton, and Conley. And with that said, the flex options are just a wash, maybe in favors of Zebras. The commish has Zebras winning this one, and I actually have the Illuminati, and I am going to stick with that. Well, that is it. That is for week 8. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Have a great day.